Well, happy LSU Pro Day, everyone. Now, I think that there were two LSU players specifically that needed this day more than anyone. One made the most of it, and one, I fear, may have only hurt his chances.
You are Locked On LSU, your daily podcast on the LSU Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Well, thanks for making Locked On LSU your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast. Plus, you can find us on YouTube as well. You can listen on the go, and you can also watch smart TV, smartphone, on your laptop, all of the above. Always appreciate you guys for being here. My name is Caroline Fenton, and I am your host, as I am every day. You can find me on Twitter at Caroline Fenton1. You can also follow along on the podcast at Locked On LSU. Also, today's edition of Locked On LSU is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more with FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. So a very, very happy LSU Pro Day to all of those who observe. I always love this day. LSU Pro Day, yes, of course, but really Pro Days across college football and across the NFL. I always think it's so fun just to see, which coaches go where and who's getting observed and all the hype, especially around the quarterbacks this season. I always love these days. And there was plenty of fanfare. LSU's Pro Day was definitely star-studded. Bill Belichick was there, which it means something. If you didn't know, there's kind of like a thing with Bill Belichick coming to LSU's Pro Day. He hadn't been to LSU's Pro Day. He hadn't actually come to Baton Rouge physically. They'd sent, Patriots scouts and other Patriots coaches to Baton Rouge during Pro Day, but he hadn't come. Bill Belichick himself hadn't come to Baton Rouge's Pro Day since Nick Saban left Baton Rouge. And now he comes, Brian Kelly's first LSU Pro Day, and he's there. So, I mean, kind of a big deal whenever you keep in mind some of the greatest coaches to ever do it. NFL, college, all of the above. Bill Belichick is one of them. So it just adds to the fact that if you want to play this game at the highest level, if you want to be coached by the greatest, come to LSU, because the best of the best come to LSU because they know that the best come out of LSU. So I think it was a great PR thing for LSU to not just have Bill Belichick there, but also I saw the LSU football account pumping out so much content the Patriots head coach in Baton Rouge. So that's all a big deal. We had 16 LSU participants at LSU's Pro Day. 9 of those were invited to the NFL Combine. Kayshon Boutte, Jarrick Jenkins, Mekhi Garner, Jay Ward, Jaquelin Roy, B.J. Ojolari, Ali Gay, Anthony Bradford, and Micah Baskerville all were invited to the Combine. So that left 7 players, draft eligible LSU players, with this being their one opportunity to play in front of NFL scouts. Of course, if those players weren't invited to the Senior Bowl, so on and so forth, but not being at the Combine, you're already at an inherent disadvantage. Not being at a televised event like the Combine, where everyone and their mother in the NFL is going to be at the Combine. Coaches, scouts, general managers, owners, journalists, you name it. Everybody who's anybody is at the Combine. So when you don't get that invite, you're already going to be a couple steps behind everyone else. So those 7 players had that opportunity to show off in front of scouts for the first time. Joe Fouché, Mike Jones, very, very critical day for players like that because this is really their lone opportunity to get in front of scouts, to get in front of coaches. And there were 2 players in particular that I think that this day was so important for. One of those guys took full advantage of it. I think the biggest story of the day, I think the biggest star of LSU's Pro Day, which, no disrespect to this player, I probably wouldn't have expected. I wouldn't have predicted this player to stand out so much. And it's nothing against the player. It's just something that I wouldn't have thought of. But Jarrick Bernard-Converse absolutely wowed today. Jarrick Bernard-Converse proved that he should have been invited to the NFL Combine because he put up NFL Combine-esque numbers. Jarrick Bernard-Converse ran a 4.440. He had an unofficial 4.32 40. Now, a 4.4 for DBs and for corners, that wouldn't have been like in the top 10 at the NFL Combine. But once you get in that 4.4 range, That separates you from the rest of the pack. Running a 4.32 and a 4.32 unofficial. And side note, I hate that they do unofficial and official 40s because you ran a 4.32. It's just what was nobody's clock on. It's just because it wasn't labeled official, it doesn't count. I think it's kind of annoying, but whatever. I get it. It's all the pump and circumstance. But he ran a 4.4 official 40, a 4.32 unofficial 40. But even though he still showed off his speed in front of these scouts. He ran he had a 42-inch vertical. To put that into comparison, that would have been tied for third best at the combine. Not third best of corners, not third best of DBs, third best overall at the combine, a 42-inch vertical. That is remarkable. He had a spectacular day. Jarrick Bernard-Converse proved himself to scouts and proved that he should not be overlooked. And Jarrick Bernard-Converse was asked about what this day meant for him. This was Jarrick Bernard-Converse after his pro day.
This is what I've been training for since January, so it was very important for me to come out here and just showcase what I could do, drills and agility and stuff like that, and speed. So it meant a lot to me to come out here and do that.
Your 40 time surprised you, or did you kind of?
I've been training, so I feel like I had it in the bag.
I guess your vert would have been tied for the third best at the combine. So knowing that you placed that high in different agility drills and stuff like that, like, how does it make you feel about your body of work?
I mean, it shows that my training has paid off, obviously. I'm just thankful for the process because, I mean, it's been a long one, so thankful.
Grinding through the process. He's been preparing for it since January. You can tell that Jarrick Bernard-Converse took this day so seriously. You can tell that trying to prove to scouts, coaches, GMs, so on and so forth, that he is that guy, that he can play this game at the next level. And I have to give Jarrick Bernard-Converse so much credit because he transfers to LSU. And, you know, while he had experience at Oklahoma State, he wasn't like a 5-star kind of guy that was very heavily recruited in the transfer portal. You know, a good player, but not one of those guys where we all as fans were saying, oh my goodness, look who we landed. And then he solidified his spot as a starter very early on. He played and started in 13 games this past season. So a guy who, you know, we weren't really sure about, weren't really celebrating, not like we were lamenting bringing in Jarrick Bernard-Converse, but it was just a guy we didn't know. Went from that to a guy that we celebrated and counted on week after week. I have to give him credit for that. He continued to do the work. He wanted to be at LSU. It was important for him to come home and play for LSU. He said it was always his dream come true. And he grinded to make that happen. He had 45 tackles, led all corners this past season, had 2 interceptions, a team high. He had a good season. He had a really solid season. And then he doesn't get invited to the combine. 9 of his teammates do. He doesn't get an invite to the combine. Like he said just there. He's been grinding since January. He's been preparing for this since January, preparing physically, preparing for interviews. And then now he gets the opportunity and he wows NFL scouts, has a day like he had today. So every opportunity that Jarrick Bernard-Converse has gotten, he's taken full advantage of. And I have a whole heck of a lot of respect for a guy like that who it would be so fair if he just continued to felt counted out and counted out and counted out and turned that into frustration. But instead, he turned it into motivation. All the credit in the world to Jarrick Bernard-Converse. And I know he'll land somewhere. I know absolutely there are going to be more eyes on Jarrick Bernard-Converse today and in their future than there were last week, 2 weeks ago, 2 months ago, a year ago. And good for him because he did it for himself. But there's an LSU player that didn't quite make the same lemonade out of lemons of today. A player that I think made a mistake declaring for the NFL draft anyway and has only hurt himself since then. We'll get into that coming up next. But before we do that, I want to tell you about FanDuel. The tournament is heating up, and there is no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. That's because right now, FanDuel is giving new customers a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's right, up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet does not win. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon and sign up today to claim that no sweat first bet. And then you can wager on everything. They've got the money line to point spreads to which team will be cutting down the net. All of that on an app that is safe, secure, and oh so super easy to use. So don't miss your shot at a no sweat first bet up to $1,000 when you join FanDuel today. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up. Make every moment more with FanDuel. Well, thanks again for making Locked On LSU your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Also, find us on YouTube. You can subscribe, hit that red subscribe button, and you won't miss a single second of your Locked On LSU content. I think Jarrick Bernard-Converse had a fabulous day. I don't think it could have gotten better for Jarrick Bernard-Converse. But let's go to another player who I think today was incredibly important for, and that's Kayshon Boutte. I'll go back all the way to this past season. I thought it was a mistake when Kayshon Boutte declared for the NFL draft. I really did. I'll take his performance this past season. Wasn't a great season for Kayshon Boutte. He was a very highly anticipated player this season. It wasn't just a name that we knew about. He was a name that everyone in college football knew about because all eyes were going to be on him, rightfully so. He had a great season in 2021 before he had that injury at Kentucky. This past season, it was a whole lot of drop balls, a whole lot of underwhelming performances. He only had 2 100-yard-plus games. He had 48 receptions, 538 yards, and 2 touchdowns on the season. It's pretty lackluster. Really not anything to write home about. Not a guy that I would look at and say, I can't wait to have that on my football team. And then the way that everything went down at the end of the season. When he announces that he's going to be coming back to LSU. And then a week later, he decides to declare for the NFL draft. And it wasn't a very thought out process. It was simply a tweet that he sent out saying, I'm going to declare for the NFL draft. And then all the rumors that came out about what he did in Atlanta at the SEC championship and all of this coming out right around the same time that he declared for the NFL draft. It was just bad look on top of bad look on top of bad look for Kayshon Boutte. And look, he had his weeks throughout the season where he looked really solid. He had his weeks throughout the season where Brian Kelly gave him a whole lot of credit for being a leader in the locker room. And I will take nothing away from Kayshon Boutte for that. But I thought declaring for the NFL draft seemed like a very hasty decision. And I thought after the year that Kayshon Boutte had, all he would do coming back to LSU and Brian Kelly's second year with Jaden Daniels' second year under Mike Denbrock for the second year would be to improve his draft stock. But he decided not to do that. He decided to opt for the NFL draft. Look, I will never blame a player for wanting to get to the NFL. Get in, make your money, make as much as you possibly can. Don't risk injuring yourself. I get it. I totally understand. I will never fault a player for that. I just think the way that it all went down was very strange. And then he gets invited to the combine, and he has a very underwhelming combine performance. He ran a 4.5 40, which would have been 23rd of the 43 wide receivers that were invited to the combine. Not great. He also ran a 4.67 40. I believe that was the unofficial time. 4.67 40, which would have been second to last of all wide receivers at the combine. He had a 29-inch vertical. That was the lowest of all of the wide receivers at the combine. He had a 9'10" broad jump, second to last of all the wide receivers at the combine. Kayshon Boutte is a guy who needed a good combine. He needed to show out on the field because he didn't show a lot on the field this past season. At least left a lot to be desired. And he didn't do that in the combine. A guy who really needed some positive publicity and didn't get that at the combine. And I thought, man, oh man, is he lucky. This cat with 9 lives, he gets an opportunity to redeem himself at LSU's Pro Day. To look at the combine and say, you know, that wasn't my best day, but look how much I can do. I can prove to you that I can do better. And he was sidelined for most of the testing, which I thought was a honestly stupid move on Kayshon Boutte's part. Ran a 4.5 and a 4.67 40. Keep grinding, keep going out there and get that speed up. Didn't run a 40. 29-inch vertical. Not great in the slightest. You're at the bottom of your position group. Do it again. Prove yourself. Go out there and show to them that you can do it better. And he didn't. The only testing that Kayshon Boutte did at LSU's Pro Day was a 3-cone drill. He had a 7.08 second 3-cone drill, which if he would have had that or done that at the combine, that would have been second to last of all wide receivers. All of that to say, everything that Kayshon Boutte has done this year, honestly, this season, I'm not going to say everything, that's dramatic. A lot of things, close to everything that Kayshon Boutte has done this past season is hurt his draft stock. Whether it's on the field in a game, whether it's on social media, whether it's the rumors that float around, whether it's the performance at the combine, whether it's not doing testing at pro day to redeem your combine, it hasn't been good. It hasn't put a good taste in the mouths of scouts, GMs, and coaches in the NFL. And I feel really bad about that for Kayshon Boutte. I hate that because I think that Kayshon Boutte has so much talent. We've seen it. We've seen that it's there. We just don't see it consistently enough, or we didn't see it consistently enough this past year. I thought I knew what Kayshon Boutte's goals were. Yet you wore that number 7 for a reason, because he was important to this team. I thought that he wanted to be the next in line of the greatest wide receivers that came out of LSU. Odell Beckham Jr. and Jarvis Landry and Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase and Kayshon Boutte. I think that's what he wanted to be. Who wouldn't want to be that? That's ultimately why I think he decided to come back initially to LSU, was to improve his draft stock and show, no. I deserve this number 7. I deserve first round hype. I deserve to be a first round draft pick because I have that ability. I just haven't seen it. And I don't know why. I don't know if it's he just doesn't have it anymore, which I don't believe that in the slightest. I don't know if it's he's not in love with or passionate about football. I'm never going to, accuse a guy of that. And I don't know that. I don't know. I haven't talked to Kayshon Boutte. I don't know that. And I don't want to think that because I think he really does love the game of football. I think he does want to be one of the greats. I don't know why it's not showing up on the field. And it's obviously hurting him. Kayshon Boutte had first round hype going into this season. Looking at the mock drafts, the 2023 mock drafts in September of 2022, and they come out way too early, but everyone's like, yeah, let's do it. We're already doing it now. We're doing 2024 mock drafts. We're already talking about Drake May. We're already talking about USC's quarterback, Caleb. Why is his name escaping me? Caleb Williams. Thank you. Jeez, Louise. We're already talking about Caleb Williams in the 2024 draft. Kayshon Boutte was one of those guys that was projected to be a top 10 pick in this year's draft. Now I don't even think he's going to be taken in the first 2 rounds. I think you might be looking at Kayshon Boutte being a round 3, round 4 kind of guy. That's not what we've seen from him. That's not what we know the ability is from him. I wish him nothing but the best. I truly do. I hope that he goes in there and he just crushes his interviews. I hope that everything left for Kayshon Boutte, every opportunity that he has left to prove himself to GMs, coaches, scouts, etc., that he just absolutely crushes it. He knocks it out of the park. And I wish him nothing but the best. But for right now, what I can see, the tangibles that we have, the combine, pro day, his season this past year, some off the field stuff. And I don't think he's a bad guy. I just think he's maybe made some bad decisions. That's all. It doesn't make you a bad person. It's not looking like it's going in a good direction for Kayshon Boutte. But man, oh man, do I want this guy to succeed? Because we know how good he is. We've seen it. And he is good. He is fast. He is smart. He can run a hell of a route. He can catch contested balls. You toss a ball up 50-50, Kayshon will be there. He's shown us that. But he's also shown us that he won't do that. And that's a disappointment to me. It is a Mailbag Wednesday. Happy Wednesday to everybody. I will get into your questions coming up next. Happy Mailbag Wednesday to everybody. Remember, I do a Mailbag Wednesday every single week, every single Wednesday. You can send in your questions on Twitter. You can DM me or you can tweet them at me at CarolineFenton1 or at LockedOnLSU. You can also just comment below on the YouTube page. I always check the comments on the YouTube page. Love to see you guys interacting. Love to chat with you guys in the YouTube comments. So send in a question today, tomorrow, next week, whatever it might be. I'll get to them on Wednesday. I start collecting them throughout the week. So get those questions in for next week's Mailbag Wednesday. But let's get into this. This first question sent in from Stanley says, where do you think Kayshon Boutte and B.J. Ojulari will get drafted? Good question, and I think very fitting for Pro Day today. I'll get into so much more NFL draft content, where I think not only just those two guys, but the rest of this draft class is going to go, where I think some fits for them could be, what I think that they need to do to improve their draft stock, just some realistic talk, what I think will happen, what I think should happen. We'll get into all of that over the next month before April 27th when the draft rolls around, when the first round rolls around. I'll start with Kayshon Boutte. I kind of just touched on it. Kayshon Boutte is a guy who I think has first-round talent. However, you have to prove to me that you have that talent. You have to prove to me that you love football. I work in Nashville. I do Nashville Sports Talk Radio. I cover the Titans ad nauseum. Mike Vrabel, their head coach, is one of those guys that really prioritizing. He calls it loving ball. You gotta love football. On the hard days in July when it's 100 degrees outside and you got pads on and you're on the practice field and you're out at training camp all day long and you're sore and you're tired and you just want to get on the field and play a real game, what gets you through? You gotta love football. Those are all things that I think are important to every coach and general manager. They want to bring in good people, good guys that just love the game of football. I don't know how much Kayshon Boutte has proven that. So a guy that I think has first round talent has dropped. Absolutely. So I think that he should go in the first round. He won't. I don't even know if he'll go in the second round, if I'll be completely honest with you. I think the sweet spot for Kayshon Boutte is mid to late third round, if not early in the fourth round. Because you also have to remember, it's not just about the individual player. It's also about the rest of the class. This NFL draft wide receiver class, rather, is really deep. There's no receiver this year that I think has emerged as being like an absolute, hands down, unanimous top 10 pick. I wouldn't be surprised, and you shouldn't be surprised either, if the first wide receiver in the class this year maybe gets taken 15th, 16th, 17th, maybe high 20th. Maybe those guys like a Quentin Johnson or a Jordan Addison from USC. Maybe those might be the first guys off the board. Maybe even a Jackson Smith and Jigba. He is coming off of an injury, so that might drop him a little bit. But there isn't one elite receiver that rises above the best, but there are a heck of a lot of good receivers you could take in the first that could go all the way down to the second or third round. So really solid receivers in this year's draft that are going to be taken first, second, and third round. So I don't know. Maybe Kayshon Boutte absolutely wows in interviews and maybe eases a lot of the concerns that may have arisen about Kayshon Boutte for the last couple of months. I'm looking at Kayshon Boutte to be a mid to late third round pick. I think that is probably the sweet spot for him. Now, BJ Ojulari is another one that I think has first round talent. And I'm not just saying that because I love those guys. Obviously, I'm an LSU fan. I do think that BJ Ojulari, all the way around as a full package, has first round talent. I think that BJ Ojulari will be taken in the beginning of the second round. I think that he's going to be one of those guys that probably gets pushed out of the first round just because of the quarterbacks or maybe some needy teams that are going to take a quarterback maybe a little bit higher than anticipated just because they need one. Looking at like a Will Levis or an Anthony Richardson, there are going to be teams in this year's draft that take those guys in the first round, either as an experiment, they see something in them, or just because they need a quarterback. And I mean, look at the top 10. The top 10 teams that are taking. I mean, like Carolina has the first overall pick. They need a quarterback. Houston has the second overall pick. They need a quarterback. Indianapolis has the fourth overall pick. They need a quarterback. Arizona is currently taking at number 3, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Arizona trade out of that number 3 spot to a quarterback needy team. So it wouldn't be surprising to me to see 4 quarterbacks go in the top 4. Honestly, that's kind of the draft that we're looking at. So that's going to push really good non-quarterbacks down. So it may push BJ Ojulari out of the first round. I think that he'll be a early second round pick. And I know we're so spoiled with having first round picks coming out of LSU. A second round pick is a premier pick. A second round pick is Derrick Henry, the best running back in the league. Dak Prescott was a 4th round pick. So don't put too much stock into the fact that LSU may not have a first round pick this year. BJ Ojulari will, and I'm going to say that today on March 29th, BJ Ojulari will be the first LSU player taken off the board. I don't think that's necessarily a hot take. I think it'll probably be in the second round. Next question coming in, and I love this one. I feel like it's very timely, kind of a fun one. One person asked me, since you live in Tennessee, you live in Nashville, how annoyed have you been about the Tennessee LSU baseball rivalry? Of course, LSU, Tennessee, their weekend series starts on Thursday. We'll have a full breakdown of that matchup on Thursday's show. So make sure to tune in for that because it's going to be a good one. I think every MLB scout in the land is going to be at that game, considering how much MLB talent is on both of these teams. But I've said this before. If you're new here, hi, welcome, happy to have you. I live in Nashville, like I just said. And three of the most important people in my life all graduated from Tennessee and are diehard Tennessee fans. My parents and my special little someone are all went to Tennessee, and they're all diehard Tennessee baseball fans. And it bugs me to no end watching Tennessee baseball games with those people. I mean, my significant other loves Tennessee baseball, and he'll jump up and say it's so awesome whenever Tennessee baseball does Tennessee baseball antics, and he's like, how awesome is that? I'm like, oh, side eye to you, Tennessee baseball. I'm really excited for this series, though. I think you have to beat the best in order to be the best. That's what happened with LSU and Arkansas this past week. A really, really tough Friday night game on both sides. I mean, Arkansas brought out two of the best left-handed pitchers on their roster, if not in the country. LSU ultimately dropped that game in extra innings because the bullpen just kind of gave it away. And then LSU comes back in those two games on Saturday, run rules them in one of them, and Tommy Tanks just does what Tommy Tanks does and absolutely exploded for that late game on Saturday. And that, I think, further solidified against Arkansas, a really good team, a top 10 team in college baseball, and you're able to pick up 2 out of the 3 wins in that series and do it handedly in 2 of those games. And both the games that you won those games handedly. To do it again against Tennessee is going to even further solidify that LSU is the best team in college baseball, that LSU has the best talent in college baseball. So while it's a very highly anticipated series, at least in my household, it should be a very highly anticipated series for all LSU fans, for all Tennessee fans as well. 2 really good teams with a whole lot of talent. And I know LSU fans hate Tennessee baseball. I know, I hear you. It's not undeserved. I will say that, but we'll have a full breakdown on tomorrow's show. And that's not me being a hater about Tennessee baseball, but if you want to act like that, you'll get the repercussions. That's going to do it for me today. Thank you for making Locked On LSU your first listen every day. For your second listen, check out our brand new podcast, Locked On College Basketball. Experts Isaac Shade and Andy Patton bring you everything that you need to know on and off the court. Plus, you can hear from big-name experts, coaches, players throughout the college basketball landscape. Locked On College Basketball, available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts.